We are back at the Fashion for Good Museum for another conversation around the Knowing Cotton Otherwise exhibition. During the second chapter of the exhibition, a special pop-up installation took place titled Woke in bed with JeanPaul Paula. And today I'm here with the artist himself to continue the conversation and learn a little bit more. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm happy that the sun is out, even though it's not really out today. But summer is here, so yeah. It means a lot of work again, so it's good.
Okay, nice.
Yes.
Before we really get into it, I think it might be nice for you to briefly introduce yourself, tell us what you do and who you are.
My name is JeanPaul Paula. I am a creative director. I'm an overall artist, so multidisciplinary is what people like to call it. I do mainly photography, film, fashion styling, and design. That's what I focus on.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you already mentioned, I think a lot of people might know you still from like your styling work.
Yes.
You mentioned that you also work as a creative director, photographer, artist, you create exhibitions.
Yes.
And the subjects are always kind of tied to intersectionality, gender sexuality, family a lot. But I'm actually curious for you to tell me a little bit more about how you actually ended up here. And also in what way you like to create the most right now, because it probably changed throughout the years.
I feel like when you're an artist and you don't know how to express yourself, and you want to figure that out, you kind of choose paths. Unfortunately, in Holland, I feel like growing up here, people are very prone to tell you to choose one thing to do. So focus all your energy on one thing and become the best at that, which can be quite boring because it can kind of tell people that you're supposed to be only doing one thing.
Limiting.
Yes, very limiting. So I kind of felt like being black already and having to work upwards so much, needing to ask so many people to collaborate with me, which wasn't always a like-minded situation. It kind of drove me to slowly but surely start doing more and more myself. So my work morphed as well. So as a stylist, you kind of work with a photographer, and you work with hair and makeup, and you work with a model, it's collaboration. But it kind of comes down to the person who presses click. They own the image, yes. I needed to learn that. And then as I grew, I kind of grew into wanting to do my own photography as well, and this is kind of been the journey of my greater expression. I feel like what I do now and how I interpret and use creativity now is very different from what I did before.
In what way?
I could do everything that I put my mind to because I know how, which is arrogant, but it's true, which also kind of gives me the possibility of creating on a broader scale. So how do I actually want what I do to come across, and do I really see myself as an artist, or am I just a stylist, or just a photographer, or just no, I'm not any of those things. I feel like as it grew as well in terms of doing my own photography and kind of getting into the creative direction position, I've been given the opportunity to direct 9 designers, to write concepts, to be completely involved with the production of the garment from beginning to the fact that we're putting it into marketing, so the end result, and then marketing that as well. Knowing that you can do that and doing all of those things and kind of feeling the hardcore of that and flourishing in that, or at least enjoying it, which is really what I did. Yeah, that kind of gave me the sense of really understanding that I'm quite capable of doing a multitude of things. Yeah, sorry.
No.
That kind of like answers that question.
So it's just a different type of mindset.
I feel like it's growth. I feel like everyone, like when you start out doing something, anything, it could be anything, you grow with that. Like if you've done it for 10 years, you grow with that. I started doing this when I was 19. I'm 37 now. I would have been really sad if I was still carrying bags for people and, oh my God, and just being told what to do.
Styling work is tough.
Yes, it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then to kind of come a little bit more to the exhibition, we talked about this a little bit before. The title is Woke.
Yes.
In bed with JeanPaul Paula.
Yes.
And I would love for you to tell me a little bit more about the intention, not only behind the title, but also the installation itself. Maybe you can describe it in a way that people that weren't there because it was a pop-up can also understand that there was a bed and like the placement of things.
Excuse me, yes.
No worries.
So last year I had a conversation with Musoka, who worked at the museum, about doing something for the museum. She kind of explained to me, they were working with the concept of cotton, and then she kind of explained what they were doing as well. I was really kind of flying around at the time. As in, I wasn't really in Amsterdam. I didn't know if I was comfortable to do anything in regards to cotton. It's not something that I take lightly at all, and it's also not something that's really connected to my direct lineage of where I come from. There's many things we could discuss, but not this specific material. Kind of what I loved about that is it kind of like sparked a fire in me to obviously to try and get to know more about it, which didn't make it easier. No, I kind of came to the conclusion that having any conversation about cotton in the Greater West is redundant. We're the problem. So for us to discuss this as if it's a light something to talk about is weird to me, because there's a direct connection to everything that we wear and slavery, like literally everything that I have on now. So I feel like that is very creepy that we can't fathom the glitch there. I kind of really connected to racism as well. I mean, obviously the whole structure is built on slavery as well. So cotton as a whole, the fact that that is the material that we now all wear, it has a lot to do with the fact that we plucked it for free. So all of this was very triggering, to be honest, to deal with, or at least to accumulate all of this information, to be very aware of the fact that we as the European Union are choosing places in the world now where people are slaves to...
Enslaved.
Where people are enslaved, excuse me, to get the goods that we get now. And we make a lot of money doing that as well. Knowing all that and having all that information, I kind of said I don't want to have a conversation in a museum about, I didn't want to give a lecture. I didn't want to stand there and be like, oh, these are the numbers, this is what's happening in the world, like, please be offended or feel something and have empathy and think about what you buy. So it took me a while to kind of like get round to figuring out what exactly it is that I wanted to do. In February, I had another conversation with the museum. So we're talking about November, and then it was February. I shifted completely what I wanted to do. I decided that I really wanted to do something which was close to what I do as an artist. I did want to converse about cotton, but the conversation that I wanted to have, I hoped that through conversing other issues that we have that are all connected to the greater problem that is racism, we can discuss cotton. And what I really wanted to do was have a conversation with Black people about cotton. And I didn't want to have a conversation with Black people in which I was going to sugarcoat it. But since we were no longer the people that were enslaved for this particular product, I really wanted to showcase how we are very much pulled into a society in the Greater West where we don't get to look at ourselves as if we are those people. We're kind of being taught that there's distance between us. And because there's already distance between Europe and Africa, which is not that great, we're different people. So
you mean we as in people in the diaspora?
We as in people in Europe, I have to say. So we can say diaspora, but I think that Americans have a very different experience of this, even people in South America, than we do. So us in Europe, us that live here, we are shocked by our experience of living here consistently. And then are we aware of how deep that goes? It's not necessarily nice, what I wanted to say. I wanted to say that this is our blood. This is our skin. This is our well-being has been put into this, but we're not aware of the fact that that it has ramifications on other people's lives that are alive now. We partake because we are not being given at all. How can we get out of wearing cotton? It's in everything. So how do you do that? And how do you explain to people that even though we might not directly experience the hardship of it here, but the landfills that they have are in Africa and in South America where we are from. So what is happening with our conversation of how we are going to a Primark and how we're applying plastic hair and how we are having Indian people run our skincare business.
It's all, but it's also all interconnected.
All of it is connected.
Which, okay, I'm starting to understand, or I understand what you mean by saying that it is really difficult to have a conversation here while you. But at the same time, I think
it's not redundant.
It's well, obviously, there's no way for me to not be part of this.
Of course,
you know what I mean?
Of course,
but at the same time, the solution would also not be to not talk about it, right?
Exactly. But we are still, which is what most institutions do, we sugarcoat it. We make it light and digestible, and that's the problem because we don't feel the necessity within it.
But do you think enough people would engage if it...
Yes, they would. Why? Because we're not going to scream at people. It would be an invitation to come and figure out what is really going on. like, this is what it looks like in India now. This is what green cotton means.
And
this
then,
is...
do you feel like, sorry to interrupt.
No, of course, no, I love this. Go ahead.
Do you feel like you, to circle back to your actual
Yes, of
installation,
course, yes.
do you feel like you landed somewhere with that? No?
No. I feel like it was impossible to do what it is that I wanted to do and make it entertaining. Like, I had a really difficult time deciding what to do. I had many ideas. Everything was no, because it wasn't possible because of when I was allowed to do it and the timing that I had within it. So this is a reality of how things are. It's not even a critique to anyone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm used to that as well. So I watered it down. I made it as digestible as possible, and I didn't want to aggress because I already know that by choosing to do what I did, so I called it woke, I made some nudes, I did it on a bed, all of these things. It scares people. It's like, I wanted intimacy, but to be intimate and to be, I don't even want to say empathic, I want to say fragile in this society, especially here, is very difficult.
Yes,
it's
for
not,
sure. But we talked about this before when I said to you, I don't really believe that there's such a thing as a safe space.
There isn't, you're right.
Except for when you said maybe your living room when you're by yourself in your own house. And then even then, I'm like still, you know what I mean? But yeah.
Hear this, maybe this is good. I sleep alone. My bed is my safest place that I know. It's where I dream, where I get to be my Pisces self. Like, it's amazing. I love my bed. I love my bed. I couldn't go and do that alone. I couldn't get into my bed alone. I have never had that issue in my life. And here I had to get in bed with my best friend to feel as if I had the power or even the right to talk, really. Because I feel like when I address things like this, especially when it's actually supposed to be addressed to people like us, like to people of color or black people, I have this fear of saying the wrong thing. I have an innate fear that I'm neglecting a responsibility, which is to think about everything black all the time and respect that, which I know the majority of us doesn't do because it's hard, but like, you still feel that. Like, will you say the wrong thing? Are you addressing people the right way? Is what you're talking about relevant? Will this help anyone? Is this, do you know what I mean? All of these thoughts went through my head.
Yeah, but I also think that's important.
Yes.
There's also no point in creating something without thinking about what the actual, like, you know what I mean? Like, what the intention would be.
Literally, it echoes in my head with everything that I do, baby. I say it almost daily, do nothing without intention. Like, Solange making that
like
track,
our sister.
it changed my life. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, to hear her echo, don't touch my hair was one thing. But to hear that you have the right to be mad, that's what I felt doing this as well. Like, I have the right to be angry as hell. And there's nothing that I could do. Really, I felt that. There's nothing that I could do to express that. So I tried to make it about what I see. I tried to make it about blood. I tried to make it about me. And
to be more concrete, like, because not everyone was there.
Sorry.
No.
Yes.
you. That's why I'm here. You know, you created a bed.
Yes.
You created visuals of yourself in bed. That was the installation. People were invited to take part in the event.
Yeah.
And I would love to speak about that also a little more. I think what I actually want to talk about is that during the event you choose to highlight a quote by Audre Lorde.
Yes.
The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house.
Yes.
And I want to ask why you decided to include that quote, and also what
So that quote for me, like, I try to really think about what it is that I do with meaning, and also with how I can connect with people. What is something that I could use that would be an easy way for somebody to understand what it is that I'm trying to convey. Yes. And that was the most thorough quote that I could find, that I could say that the entire foundation of me doing this is already the problem. The necessity and the need for a conversation about that is there. But are we really aware of where we are? Like, we're in Holland. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm part of the kingdom, but in a way that I'm as much part of it as you are, because we're seen as the same when we walk down the street. So my awareness when it comes to that, it was really kind of like inviting black people into a very uncomfortable place that we live in, this illusion of this matrix that we're in, this reality of there not being a Wakanda, so there's no place
for black people to escape.
So what can we then do to make them understand that we're aware of the fact that this is what's going on, and what will we do with our knowledge and responsibilities. That's,
which I think different people in the room had different answers to that.
Yes.
And I very much understood all of the different answers that like different Black people, opinions and answers that they had, because that's also the whole thing of like being seen as like one singular, you know what I mean?
Literally.
While everyone's experiences are different and everyone's opinions and also feelings are different. And while I maybe felt, for me personally, it was very heavy and like a lot of like traumatic experiences had been shared that for me is always like a bit much, I could also tell that other people, they said that afterwards, or you know, I could see that during the event, that is exactly what they needed.
Exactly.
And so I think that is also the point of like,
of course,
everyone needs something different, and everyone's also at a different stage of wokeness.
This is why, but this is why, like honestly, woke literally just means like really where it
being
comes
aware.
from. Yes, and also back then it was like, be fucking careful. Know where you are. Don't say weird stuff because you might end up dead. My parents used to say this shit to me when I was a kid. Yeah. Like, just be aware. Just don't say, be respectful.
But it's just the way terms are being overused and misused that at some point you almost don't want to touch it anymore. I said this to you before, that it's like,
I completely hear that, but I think that I love that for your generation. I do. I don't think that I have that luxury, and also going into this, like what you're saying, I thought about it a million times. I'm like, I'm trying to have a conversation on my level of awareness with other people that might not be there with me, or my level of thinking or connecting the dots the way that I've done this little puzzle in my head. And I'm aware of that. And if anything, over the years, I've learned that I need to be extra open to, again, listen to their traumatic experience. Unfortunately, you really, because I, like for example, a friend of mine, Christina, was there, and she expressed herself, and I'm aware of where she is with conversations that I've had with her many, many, many times. But people that were in that space might not have heard her version of what she's experiencing.
That's true.
And even me, I felt like, oh girl, you're taking this to a level of sadness and depression, things connected in that room that kind of ignited other things to happen, and then it just unfolded on its own, which I kind of expected as well. But I really went into it very much aware, and also kind of fearful. I was afraid to traumatize people even more, or trigger people. And
so you were very conscious about that. You did think about that before.
A lot. It's why I cried so much the entire time. Like, I was really aware of the fact that what I was sharing was not necessarily nice, but I have no other way to do it.
But then what, like, are you, do you want to?
Yes, no, I'm fine. This is literally how I talk.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly, when I get emotional, this is it.
I know.
Oh my God, I used to tease my brothers with this stuff so bad.
No, but you know what the thing is? I guess it's better to let it out in the moment.
We called it cry speak. Jankpraat in Dutch. Horrible. Oh my God, sorry.
Where was I? I think I wanted to ask what your end goal was with it, or what your intention was, and if you feel like you've reached it.
So in that space, there was one person that said, I spoke up for myself. And that's the first time I did that. Done.
A Black person.
That was it, yes, that was it. That was why I was there. I didn't feel the need to prove anything to anyone by the time that I got there. I was sad that I couldn't leave the work longer for it to resonate and for people to go back to understand what it meant. Because it was really like a blimp. But in terms of that day being what it could have been, that was the best outcome that it could have had. Because I feel like we also don't have a conversation about the connection. When we talk about racism, it does mean the one thing because of the structure that we live in. So there's the system that is racism, and then there's obviously how we experience it and all of those things. So we live in a construct with Black people underneath. This is not questionable, this is facts. I still feel the need to explain this very often. If then Jewish people want to talk about the...
If you are going into this, you do have to explain...
Contextualize.
Yes, please, because now you're talking to me as if, you know what I mean? But for people that are watching this video...
Yes. So in the space, at one moment, somebody stood up and like I was really giving kind of like the opportunity for a lot of people to share, which is really what I wanted. And this person stands up and they identify themselves as a Jewish 75 or 79 years old person who's gay, who's experienced a lot of discrimination in their life. but they were comparing it to blackness, and he didn't understand. This person doesn't understand.
And also taking over the space a little. I think that was
They were so rude the entire time, talking over me the entire time.
Exactly.
Like it was crazy. I could not believe that this person would do that. That they would be so rude, especially because I know them as well. But I really feel like we have a problem, which is also something that I addressed very often in the conversation that I was having that day as well, about the discrimination that we have in the LGBTQA+ community. Sorry, and especially conversation within racism as a whole that we're not having as a people with a connection to people of other ethnicities than black or other origins or walks of life, or call it what you may.
Intersectionality, basically.
There you go. I mean, this person was basically explaining their intersexes and was really disregarding or trying to trauma compare with the black experience by saying that they were Jewish.
Well, that wasn't even the subject of the conversation.
At all. And it was really sad that I then had to kind of explain the rules, which I kind of should have done from the beginning. But I had to explain the rules to the room, and this person continued being this noise in the space. From an artistic point of view, I have to say this. I couldn't have asked for reality to show his ass more than this. It was disgusting. It was vile. It was very racist.
But it was also interesting for the reaction of the room, because I think it was interesting to see that I felt none of the black people were surprised.
No.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think,
it really kind of defined what I was trying to say in its greatest sense, I feel. It was not comfortable, and we need to have these conversations in front of white people for them to kind of understand the necessity of these things as well. And it's not for everyone at all the time, but in that moment, it was the reality of the world that we live in.
It's interesting that you say that, because that was one of the questions that I often ask myself, and that resurfaced for me in that very moment. I was really thinking, like, not only what type of conversation should we have, but also in what spaces and with, like, who should participate.
Yeah.
You know, because
I went there immediately. Yeah.
Because I get that there's a maybe you should. Yeah, that's a question for you.
People came up to me and they were like, "Next time, please do this without these people here." And I couldn't have said it like, "Yes, you're right." What I was trying to do was have a conversation in this institution.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I said we should just open it up to everyone. I'm just gonna do it, and everyone should just come. And then they were like, "Nah, maybe we shouldn't do that." And then I was like, "Okay, so let's do it close. Then let's invite people. Let's have 100 people come, and then we'll do that." 100 people applied, and this person is family of my chosen family.
Yeah.
So they are in the space because they are parents to people that I consider parents. And it really, for me, kind of like also mapped out where it is that I come from and who the people are that I grew up around. The way that I've maybe influenced them in thinking differently.
Yeah.
And also them being around me with their blunt and honest version of this type of reality expression. Honestly, I grew up with this, so I'm not really that shocked. I was saddened that they felt the need to do this. Appalled even, but it really proved my point.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was uncomfortable. Like experiencing racism is never comfortable, ever. And when it's done like so.
But as you said, I guess the silver lining was for that woman to speak up, and
Definitely.
and even for me just to witness someone speaking up felt already really good.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, honestly, like, I want to thank you for having this conversation with me.
Thank you.
And for, like, also being open for all of my questions.
I wasn't going to come into this any other way.
And my sometimes overcritical point of view. So
I think people don't do that enough. I really enjoy that you do that. I also really understand where you come from when you do it. And we've had a lot of conversations over a long period of time. And I enjoy that we are not the same person. And I enjoy that we can then have conversations about. I learn a lot from you.
Yeah, and vice versa. I think it's really, that's actually where you can learn a lot from.
Yes.
But that's also like realizing what I said before is that you can get lost in the idea of that we can relate to so many shared experiences, we can relate to each other, but then you forget sometimes that we're all also super different and unique, obviously. So that's something I value and brings me forward.
Completely. We were talking about what it's like to walk down the street in this country or here with white people.
Yeah.
This is something that we share, but like honestly, we walk down the street with also kind of the notion of everyone is impossible. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, like that you're always on.
we're
like
on
that's-
guard.
yeah.
We're always on guard, and
Yeah.
it makes us sensitive to critique, or it makes us fragile when we haven't actually done our work or our research. And I love that you would kind of like, you ask questions like, did you think about this? And I'm like, if I didn't, I should. Do you know what I mean? And I love that, and thank you for being like that.
Thank you very much.
It's nice. I like it.
All right, for everyone that still wants to check out the exhibition, unfortunately, JeanPaul's work isn't here anymore because it was a pop-up. However, I'm sure you will find his work at many other places. And if you still want to come by to check out Knowing Cotton Otherwise, it will be open until October 16th. Make sure to check it out. Thank you for watching.